On today's Locked On Texans podcast, I discuss more takeaways from the preseason game. Additionally, Brevin Jordan suffered a lower leg injury. What does that mean for the Texans offense, which looks sharp during Monday's practice?
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Battle Red Nation, from H-Town to your town, whether you're listening through audio earpods, or whether you're watching and viewing on YouTube, today's show and every episode is for Texan fans all around. We balling in the mix today. Can't wait to talk to you guys, and I'm your Texas Credential Media member and football analyst, John Hickman. Today's show is about what's next for Houston. That's what I'll close out with, looking at what are my expectations and what should we want to see as they go throughout the week. They got a joint practice this week against the Carolina Panthers. They also, this is the preseason game too, where we typically see more starters. And so, yeah, I kind of want to see that. But what starters and who do we need to see to get a better look at this team overall, especially on the offensive side of the ball? Brevin Jordan, unfortunately, goes down with a lower leg injury. What does that mean for the tight end unit? What does that mean for the offense? Who had a good day? So I'll give you guys information on that. And also, what did I miss? I have more takeaways from the preseason game, and there were some things that I was incredibly impressed by, of which, and you guys are like that, some of you quote-unquote stat nerds out there, I love y'all. But here's something for you guys that you may like. According to PFF, the top 4 pass blockers from Saturday's game: Woody Marks, Jawar Jordan, Ariante Ursary, and Jake Andrew. There was not a pressure or a hurry allowed between those 4. So I think that's incredibly encouraging, especially for the young backs. Need to show that they can pass block community. They need those reps. They got those reps, and I thought that they looked damn good with those reps. Now, hear from D'Amico Ryans on what he observed after watching film from the Minnesota Vikings game this past Saturday.
Yeah, one thing I liked is just the physicality. Starting up front, like I turned on the first snap of our offensive line, the way we were coming off the ball, all right, resetting the line of scrimmage, Yacht coming through, playing physical at that fullback position. I just like the physicality that was shown. Of course, there's always room for improvement when it comes to technique and finishing some blocks and things at the second level. Defense being on the same page, like finishing plays. But overall, I'm pleased with how the guys showed up. And it was just, that's the first one. Now I tell guys that the first one really doesn't matter. It's how you show up on the next one and what type of improvements are you showing. So I'm really excited about this week. Like, let's crank the intensity up. We get to go against another team, and let's see who have taken the lessons learned and can they apply them this week.
Technique, Blake Fisher. We need to see it, big dog. Big dog. We need to see it, Blake. And I'm gonna say this, man. It wasn't all bad for Blake. Blake had some moments in there where, if I'm a coach, I'm clipping this up. I'm clipping up your good. I'm clipping up your mid. I'm clipping up your downright bad. And I'm showing him the difference of, okay, on this rep, you didn't lean too early, so the defender wasn't able to get past you with an easy move. You had good balance from the hip up, a good stance, and that allowed you. Now, on this rep, it was really bad. You leaned in, your hand shot out the gate. They were able to swipe them down and get right around you with bad footwork. Your recovery time wasn't as good. How can we consistently get you from where this point was to where we're probably clipping this up and saying, hey, listen, you did a very good job over here? Blake Fisher is someone that I think a lot of people have lost confidence in. I am one of those people. However, new coaching staff, Cole Popovich is in their room. I believe that they're going to coach him up. Plus, he is not going anywhere no time soon. I don't think so. We saw this franchise give Kenya Green 3 years. I think at the very least they'll give Blake Fisher a few years. But, of course, Braxton Berrios, was a star from Saturday's preseason game for the wide receiver group. But I want to take time to say that for a player who is fighting for his spot, John Metchie had a good showing. He showed strong hands, which has been an issue for JMA. 5 catches, all 3 levels, underneath, down the field, in between, showed great and mature hands once again. But here's what I really liked. And this is something Christian Kirk talked about, when we had an opportunity to speak with him a few weeks back. Talked about just knowing what the coverage and leverage dictate. And on a few of those targets, I saw Metchie's ability to adjust and make it easy on his quarterback because he understood, okay, with this leverage that I have because of what the defense is allowing me in terms of space, I may not need to go and stop at 8. I may need to stop at 5. And this is something that the offense, some of these guys have talked about. The offense would allow them a little bit more flexibility to beat defenses depending on what they're showing in terms of where they want to break their route off at the top of the route. So I thought that was impressive. Saw his ability to do that, make his job easy on his quarterback. He also had 2 forced tackles. I do want to add that he played in the fourth quarter of a game, which was needed. No doubt about it. I mean, again, he's fighting for a spot. But it reminded me of how everything ended with Desmond King. If you guys remember Desmond King's last year in Houston, their preseason game, this is after they, I think, signed him back. And it was a whole bunch going on. Desmond King played all the way up into their fourth quarter in their last preseason game. And he was eventually let go by the Houston Texans. So that's just something to keep an eye out on. Also, Juice Scruggs, I thought, showed some real promise at guard. I think he looked really good. He had some stonewall moments where it was some moments where he was blocking. I said, man, he ain't letting them boys go nowhere. He is not letting that D tackle go. He's not letting them rest. Better showing in the run game, especially when Andrews was on the field. But I thought he was consistently good, all things considered. Had some moments, of course, D'Amico Ryan's talking about cleaning up on some of those techniques. Had some moments where he maybe want to clean up there, but I was impressed by Juice Scruggs. And I'm going to say this, man, they keep running Laken Tomlinson out there, left guard. Hopefully, once we see the starters this week, we'll get an accurate depiction of what he looks like against other starters. But I don't think left guard has been locked down yet, in my opinion, from my eyes. I don't think that there has been a left guard that's been out there that has just completely blew me away to lock it down. At center, yes, and I told you guys, hey, they trust Jake Andrews because of what he provides in the run game. We've went back and forth on the Texas Squad show. Is Ariante Aristide left or right, whatever it is, he's a dog. He's out there. Titus Howard, we know he's going to be out there. So now with the injury to Cam Robinson, which may end up being a blessing in disguise, I'll talk about that. But with the injury to Cam Robinson, okay, what does that look like for that left guard spot? For both of those guard spots now that Titus is playing right tackle. But with Ariante Aristide starting at left tackle due to Cam Robinson being injured right now, that may have caused the Houston Texans to find a blessing in disguise. If that IOL can hold up, like I said, if they find the right pieces to play inside alongside Jake Andrews, who by far is the best option for center, I think we'll see first-team offensive line this week against the Panthers. And that should be with Tay at left tackle, Titus Howard at right tackle. Why that is a blessing in disguise? Because Cam Robinson, who'd be a very expensive insurance policy, would be one nonetheless if he loses that starting spot. We should not have to see Zach Thomas on the field ever this Sunday. For any Sundays, Monday. We shouldn't have to see Zach Thomas take snaps for the Houston Texans if Tay and Howard are the starting tackles. If Robinson becomes a backup, which again is a very expensive backup, I don't know how they feel about him not being a starter with the amount of money that they paid him that he can make up to this year. Essentially, if he doesn't meet those incentives, it's only, I think, $11 million or something along those lines. But Zach Thomas shouldn't see the field to protect CJ Stroud. Allowed 1 sack on Saturday, was consistently beating on pass and run blocks. And for what it's worth, if anything, for some of you Texan fans, Davis Mills was under center 8 of the 10 plays from the 74-yard drive that resulted in a touchdown in 2024. Just to give you some numbers, out of 499 dropbacks, Stroud was in shotgun formation 79% of those, 79% of those plays, and was under center for roughly 21% of those plays. Up next, it was a good day for the Texans offense. It was a bad day, unfortunate day for the Texans offense. During their first camp practice, post their first preseason game, we got more Locked On Texans talk on the way. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. The Locked On Texans Swarm Fantasy League, we're almost filled on their second league, and I can't wait to get started with you guys to have some fun in a couple of Sundays when we'll host a draft, but it'll be hosted on Yahoo Fantasy. And listen, you should host your Yahoo League, your fantasy football league on Yahoo, whether you're a first timer or making your millionth league. Whether you're all in on something new or sticking to head leagues or jumping into public leagues, Yahoo has got you covered. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout the month of August. To kick it off, they just dropped the Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scored team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the new season around the corner, now is the time to get in on Yahoo Fantasy League, get your league together, and give this new mode a try. If you're into more of the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/locked-on. Welcome back, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers, whether it's YouTube or audio. I appreciate your ears and eyes this morning. An update from training camp practice, which includes the unfortunate news of Brevin Jordan going down with the lower leg injury, per reports from ESPN's DJ Bianame and Houston Chronicles' Jonathan Alexander. Brevin Jordan went down after having a good day of practice to that point. He went up to catch a pass, hurt his knee. He couldn't put weight on it, was carted off the field. They heard him crying loudly, shouting no in pain. Brevin Jordan caught two passes for 11 yards Saturday, and posted a run blocking grade of 74. Very impressive. I thought he did a very good job of helping the Houston Texans offensive line create creases and holes for their running backs. Tough situation for both Brevin Jordan and the Texans. At the time of this recording, again, no update or diagnosis has been provided, but you have to feel for Jordan. He's one of the most infectious guys on the team in terms of energy, incredibly hard worker, and an extremely raw athlete who was putting it all together. I mean, this goes back to last year, but he was putting it all together. He had his playoff moment where his touchdown helped the Houston Texans blow the roof off the NRG in their playoff game 2 seasons ago against the Cleveland Browns. But aside from all of that, it feels like he had an OC, or he has an OC that looked at that tight end room, realized how underutilized and out of whack it was, and this offensive coordinator had a plan for that room, which included Jordan having direction for his skill set, which I think is very important to say. Sometimes players have skill sets and coaches don't know how to use them. Brevin Jordan, it felt like he had direction now for what he's good at. The entire room, by the way. But for Brevin being a freak athlete, you hate to see that for a young man. So speedy recovery to Jordan, praying for the best, because I wanted to see this young man continue to have his moments. Not just one moment, but his moments. I thought he deserved it. Keep in mind, Houston does have rookie 7th rounder Luke Lachey, Dalton King, who they just recently signed, and Irv Smith Jr. on the roster. And those guys will be fighting for a role if Jordan is out for an extended period of time, which all signs point to. Again, at the time of this recording, no update or diagnosis on the injury for Brevin Jordan. And when you look at the tight end room and how much, Nick Caley, his experience with coaching that bunch, where the direction was going. I mean, you heard it all through our training camp reports. CJ didn't look that great today. Offensive line didn't look that great today. Okay, the running back room wasn't able to run that well, but the tight ends. And this is a complete 180 from 2024. The tight end room got praise, whether it was Dalton Schultz taking on that veteran role, being a leader, whether it was just the dynamic that Brevin Jordan bring. Year 2 of Cade Stover, and those guys showed a lot of love to Luke Lachey. Now it's kind of like, where do they go from here? And honestly, drafting Luke Lachey in the 7th round, he's gotten a lot of good reps. They like him a lot. They've talked about him. Again, we don't know what the future is going to hold for Brevin Jordan, but Luke Lachey is one of those Iowa tight ends. We know that they produce some damn good tight ends, and he's played with one of them for a few seasons up there in Iowa. Never had the greatest of quarterback situations. Wasn't an offense that made the tight end group or made him a focal point. More so of a running offense. That's where Caleb Johnson came up out of, who is now in the league as well at running back. So I am excited to see with this news, and it's unfortunate that we have to get to this route this way, but with this news, with Brevin Jordan being out, what does that mean for Luke Lachey along with the other guys? Now, hear from D'Amico Ryans on the Texans having a great practice.
Oh, man. No, really, great practice today overall. Guys getting back from the Minnesota trip, Greenbrier trip, everything was a success of how we planned it. So it's good to get back out here to work, back home. Everybody feeling that temperature difference already, so it's good. Good day of work. Unfortunately, guys are here. We saw Brevin go down with an injury. We'll continue to evaluate Brev and see, where he is. It's tough for everybody to see Brevin going down, knowing how much work he's put in to get back to this point of playing football and how excited he was to get back playing football. So just praying for him to have a successful return.
The reports were Dalton Schultz had to consult CJ Stroud. And while I'm not here to get into the conversation about his leadership in question, I will say, aside from that bad news, all signs and reports pointing to the offense having a stellar day. They started to put it together the last couple of days at the Greenbrier in West Virginia, picking up where they left off. Again, we all saw that first drive where it looked clean and concise. Some people felt as though that was CJ Stroud's sharpest day of practice Monday. Several explosive plays, 10 or more yards down the field, including a 60-yard TD from CJ Stroud to rookie wide receiver Higgins per John Alexander of the Houston Chronicle. John Metchie, again, continues to have a good training camp after a rough start. He had a 65-yard bomb from Davis Mills. Those two have grown quite a lot together and have a very good connection. So Houston may very well keep 6 active receivers on their roster. I don't know if they can cut Berrios. I mean, what he provides in special teams, what he provides as a savvy vet who's been in the NFL, for a while and understands the small things and the small details. Berrios and Metchie, they've been having a good training camp battle. Not to say that one's over the other at this point, but both of those players, I think, have showed their value. And for Metchie, former second-round pick who Houston traded up for, he's a player that the Texans absolutely want to see him pan out in the league, man. And so he had a rough start. He's cleaned up on some things. And again, one thing that I wanted to point out from Saturday's game before we move on is just showing mature hands has been where his growth has been the last 3 weeks. Well, you love to hear that. But with Brevin Jordan going down, okay, what's next for the Houston Texans on the offensive side of the ball and defensively when they get into the joint practice this week against the Carolina Panthers, and they also take on Carolina this weekend? We got more Locked On Texans talk to close out today's show. August 26th is officially FanDuel Features Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champion before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. So take a flyer on the MVP race. And I don't know about you guys, but most valuable player. This is an offensive league. How do you feel about an MVP on the offensive side of the ball that lost his starting left tackle, that switched offensive coordinators, that brought in a whole new wide receiver room. How do you feel about CJ Stroud being the MVP of the 2025-2026 season? How do you feel about that? You can feel about it strongly on FanDuel Features Day, or just parlay your division winner dark horses. And I don't know anybody that's going to take the Indianapolis Colts, not no Texas fans, so y'all can forget that. Visit FanDuel, the app today, and start planning your future bets now, because Future Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Welcome back, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. Thank you for making Locked On Texans your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out Locked On Bets. Betting experts Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers have daily MLB locks and can't miss football futures. Find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. What's next for the Houston Texans? What do we want to see? Well, I mentioned, hey, guys, I think the running backs block very well in pass coverage and pass blocking situations on Saturday. You know, that's a bonus. However, running backs don't get paid for being a pass blocker. They get paid for being a running back. And now, granted, after that first series, we didn't see the starting group out there anymore for a good portion of the game. That's where Darray got a lot of those reps. Shout out to the Houston Texans for allowing Darray to get some burn throughout the regular season. He'll probably, and I'm not being funny or anything, he'll probably, get maybe 10 to 15, depending on the situation. And Houston loves Darray. So they gave him that run. He averaged, 6.8 yards per carry or something along those lines. 5 carries, 30-plus yards. Did well. After that, you talk about what do I want to see? The two guys that I kicked the show off with, hey, listen, they had some great pass blocking grades, but they did not run the ball well. And I am talking about Jawar Jordan and rookie running back Woody Marks. Jawar Jordan, 6 carries, 18 yards. Woody Marks, 3 carries, 4 yards. They both had a long run on the day for 5 yards, which is, I mean, you can take that in stride. But I want to see those running backs have a chance to get out there with some of the first-team guys. Even if they're not with the first-team guys, because it's not going to always be perfect in the NFL, I want to see a better showing from the running backs, especially the young running backs. Jawar Jordan, who is fighting for a spot. Woody Marks, who Houston drafted. They like him a lot. So I'm not going to necessarily say he's fighting for a spot, but he is fighting for pecking order. I will say that. He's fighting for a pecking order on his depth chart. Dameon Pierce is back. He was getting some reps with the ones. Maybe went through his first stage and phase of the ramp-up period last week. But will he be able to get out on the field this week as the Houston Texans take on the Carolina Panthers this Saturday at noon at home, man? If y'all are real Texas fans, I want to see y'all out there at the stadium. So I'm looking for a better day from the running back group. I think that's important simply because we saw when the ball was ran well for Houston, what that did for the offensive tempo. That ain't gonna change. No. Nick Haley has talked about we want to run the ball. We want to run the ball. D'Amico Ryans, we want to be physical. We want to run the ball physically. That's not gonna change. And I think when we saw the dip in the ability to run the ball, granted, Kendall Slovis, Graham Mertz, they ain't Davis Mills, right? And I thought Slovis had a good day. But when we saw the inability from the Houston Texans to be able to run the ball effectively, then we saw the offensive rhythm and flow go down. Again, you got 3s and 4s out there. I understand it, but that's something to keep an eye on. Defensively, man, and this is something that Tim Settle kind of talked about. He was asked about how dangerous the IDL can be, interior defensive line. He said if everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, we could be real lethal. Like I said, we got to play 4 as one. We got to play competitive football. I can't wait to see the projected starters or the guys that will be projected to take more snaps than not, because Houston does a very good job of rotating their IDL. But I can't wait to see them out on the field Saturday. I want to see what that pressure is going to look like when it's an even kill across the board. So not just, Darrell Taylor out there. And by the way, Foley Fadakowski and Derek Barnett were activated off the PUP list. So that group is getting stronger. That group is getting deeper. That group is getting, they're getting their backups. They're getting their guys. I want to see what the depth of that D-line will look like, but more so what the pressure and how they'll be able to contain the run game from the inside. What is that going to look like? And so hopefully we'll get a better glimpse of that in preseason game 2 compared to preseason game 3. Houston has pretty much all veterans are going to not play, especially those guys that locked up their spot. Guys like Tim Settle. I wouldn't see Sheldon Rankins playing. So I want to see the fullness of that unit. And I want to see Christian Harris. Do I think we'll see him? No. Should we see him? Maybe even that's up for debate. But I would like to see Christian Harris and Dameon Pierce. But more so Christian Harris. It's been a long time. He's been practicing. He's getting back into the flow of things. Again, an X-factor type of player at that linebacker spot. I think he's special, especially when he's on the field. I just want to see him on the field. Underrated thing to talk about. Nick Caley called plays from the booth this past Saturday. It was confirmed that I think this upcoming Saturday he'll be calling plays from the sideline. I'm going to confirm that for you. Yeah. D'Amico Ryans talked about for our offensive coordinator, Nick Caley, he wanted to call it up top. I think as a coordinator, you have to get your feel. As a first-time play caller, you get a good feel for doing it up top and doing it on the field. So for him, I think the first one, he was up. This week, we'll flip it. He'll be down this week. So this week, we'll use preseason for coaches as well to go through the mechanics of how we want to operate on the sideline. But the communication was really, really great from the offensive and defensive perspective. So we'll see him on the field this week. And I kind of want to see, is there a change in how he approaches the game, play calling, being able to see it up close compared to the sky view. Will we see a difference in how the flow of the game goes? Some people feel like the sky view is where you get an advantage. Some people feel like up close on the field is where you get an advantage. So just kind of seeing the difference in play calling and the flow of the game from a play calling perspective. And I thought Nick Caley did a very good job Saturday calling the plays. Again, we get a sample size look because essentially once you move on from their first unit that took the field, you got guys out there that are not projected to be on the field, or you got guys out there that their success is kind of dictated by everybody else around them. So a little bit of a glimpse, a little bit of the sample size. We'll see more this Saturday against the Carolina Panthers. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12. Until next time, ladies and gents, Texas fans across the nation, peace.